Welcome to The Creative Influencer, where we discuss all things creative with an emphasis on influencers. The Creative Influencer is hosted by John Pfeiffer. John is an entertainment attorney in Santa Monica, California, who represents influencers and other creatives.
This is episode 9 of the 7th season of the Creative Influencer Podcast. Today we interview Dr. Rebekah Louisa Smith, one of the world's leading film festival strategists. Dr. Smith has a doctorate in film and audience research focused on, of all things, Quentin Tarantino's fan base and their emotional responses to his films. Dr. Smith is passionate about mental health in the entertainment industry and has integrated it into her work with clients and staff. She aims to promote the importance of mental health and self-care in the high-pressure and competitive world of the creative industries. It's hard to believe, but this interview is more fun than watching Pulp Fiction. But don't just take my word for it. Enjoy. I am joined today by Dr. Rebekah Smith. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You are a published author.
Yes.
A couple books.
Yep.
You are an award-winning film distribution consultant.
Yep.
And you are one of the world's leading film festival strategists. And we'll get to all of that. I also want to talk to you. One of the things you speak about is mental health for creators and people in the film business and just creative in the entertainment business in general.
Yes.
Okay. But first, we were talking before we started the recording, excuse me, about your doctorate.
Yes.
So your doctorate is in what topic?
It's on film and audience research.
Which means what?
Which is an area of academia that looks into how real spectators and film viewers respond to films emotionally and intellectually, and in a way which is showing how real people respond to film.
And for those who are watching this podcast, they'll be able to bet, or they'll be able to guess what film genre you studied. Like, what was your particular focus?
So my PhD was focused upon Quentin Tarantino. And you can tell in the background, Pulp Fiction, the favorite film. So my PhD looked at the Quentin Tarantino's fan base. His fan base I chose because I'm a big fan of him, but also his fan base are very passionate about his films, especially his male fan base. And what I found out in that research when analyzing his fans' emotional responses to his most recent film at the time when I wrote it, which was The Grindhouse and Death Proof double bill, that it's Tarantino's dialogue that connects them emotionally to him and his characters and has that and creates that kind of fandom. With women, it's not really the same. You know, they like the women and they're kick-ass women and they think he's cool, but it's not as deep or as in details and depth as it is with men. And he does dominate a lot of men dominate his fan base in the US and UK where I did the study. So it's really interesting to see and compare it against the theories of film emotion. We're not like this at all. So it kind of did give a lot of insight into, you know, how fans respond to a director that's known as like an auteur.
Now, is it published? I mean, it's obviously published, but is it, if I, as a member of the public, wanted to read a copy, where could I go?
I have to go to the BFI Film Library in London and also the National Film Library in Wales. So I have to go across the pond. I'm based in Texas, but you have to go across the pond and get it. But it's there. They do want me to like maybe do it into like a book form, but I got caught up with my company when it began, so I didn't have time to do both.
So where are you from originally?
The UK, from Worcestershire, United Kingdom.
And then how long have you been in the United States?
I moved here permanently in August 2021.
What town?
I live in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas. How do you like it?
I love it. I love it here. I mean, it's crazy weather. We do have some insane weather, but it's part of Texas and it's quite fun. But I love it. It's a very hospitable state and I really like it here. We can't hear the thunder then, but we just have some random, bouts of sunshine and the thunder. But no, it's great. It's really lovely.
So I wanted to talk to you about mental health in the arts and entertainment scene.
Yeah.
You've developed an interest in that. What traditionally it was a taboo topic to talk about your mental health, but
Yes.
that's changing. Why do you think it's changing?
I think it changed a lot during the pandemic when it began in 2020, because I think people realized how important having good well-being and mental health is when you're in that kind of situation you're forced into, and that you really got to take care of you, not just if you're ill, but just generally mentally and physically to get through something that has never happened since 1918, the first pandemic, for like when it was 2 years, I think it was in the wartime, when, this life-changing event and the whole world changed. And you need to be prepared to get through it, because it's a lot on the body. I think that became more prevalent during them.
And then I'm going to ask you a question about how you feel about how you feel. So, do you feel it's more that it's more mainstream for people to talk about it now?
I do actually, yes. I think people are now starting to be more vocal about it on Instagram stories, reels, and there's more people following, mental health kind of platforms. A lot of actually entrepreneurs during the pandemic, or maybe towards the end of it, started to launch platforms about mental health and how to look after yourself more carefully now, and found new avenues to approach it differently and more creatively.
What advice, and we'll drill down on this, but in general, what advice would you give to creatives on balancing artistic endeavors and their own mental health?
I think the most important thing is to separate the film, whether it be a music video, a narrative or documentary, whatever the product is in my client's case, separate it from yourself and see it as a product, and that it's not attached to you emotionally. The more emotion you have attached to your film or your music video, whatever it's going to be, or your screenplay, the worse you'll become on the journey if you can't separate the two. You'll blur into one and you won't know which one is where you stand and where the other one stands. And if you separate it, you can, process things differently. If it's still attached to you and inside of you, it'll become a very blurring and traumatic process.
And how does one start to go about doing that? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's
intellectually, yeah, oh, sure, just separate it. But
yeah,
emotionally, how do you
easier
start doing
said
that?
than done.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, what I say to clients of mine is to say, right, when you're making the film or the music video, whatever it's going to be, or, or the short film, feature film, whatever it is, the product, when you're making the product, that's the fun part. Obviously you're immersed in it and, you're making it. But then when it's finished in the edit suite, it changes, it becomes a product. And you then have to see it as you're selling it to the correct audience, to film festivals, to sales agents, distribution companies, Netflix, whatever it might be. And they're going to look at it very differently. They're not interested in all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making a film. And every film, what a creative piece you're going to make, is hard to make. It's not going to be a straightforward process or be all linear. There's going to be problems, going to be challenges. It's going to, break you probably and make you learn a lot of stuff. But it's going to be a good learning curve. But then that's all happened. Now it's a different kind of environment and market that you're going to be in. And it's important that you see it as like a separate thing, that it's not kind of like your baby anymore. The baby's grown up and it's now, a fully grown adult. And now it's going to be treated into the real hardcore world, the real world of distribution and audience response. And you have to take criticism as a way that it's not to you, directed to you. It's just constructive critique, which is to help you on the journey and give you feedback, not failure.
I agree with what you're saying. The pause was that is, again, easier said than done.
Yes.
Because it has, I mean, from the time a creator starts as a little boy or a little girl,
Yeah.
they've always associated their well-being and their value with their product. And
yes,
it's parents, myself included, they are to blame on that start of the path. But
yes,
it's just very hard. So for instance,
it is.
If a
And it's a
creator
good point.
receives criticism, what tools can they use to realize that they're talking about the product as opposed to the core of the person?
So what I found was really helpful for some clients of mine, some of them had been working on a film and written it and rewrote and made all this effort to get it all together, like for 10 or 15 years or more. Some are very long in development, getting the funds, all that kind of thing. So what I told them was that, okay, this has been a long journey, but it's finally finished and you have the film. But now look into and research. I'll give you some books, The Business of Film, and prepare. Now do the research into that and how it's different to making the film, how the perceptions are different, and how the general consensus is pretty different. So that might help you understand what's going to be ahead of you and how these people watch films and how they engage with them. They're not going to be passionately attached to it. They're thinking about how to make money. So if you've got the business of film and the art of the film business and sales distribution, read the books I suggested. That can help to detach. And then maybe when you make your next film, if this film is not commercial enough, or if this film is not sellable enough for whatever reason, then that way the toolbox to make a more commercial film that you might not be as passionate about, but then maybe you can get the money made. But you could still bring in your creativity, of course, but you'll just know how it works in a different way. Because obviously in film schools and when you're learning to make a movie, it's all, making it, and you want to tell a story and you're excited about that story. Why wouldn't you be, especially with a short and a feature? But look into the business side. So start being more practical, hands-on, do research on the books and online, and then do research with your peers and see what their experiences have been and how they felt supported. And if they didn't, then learn from those things is really important. I'd bring in stuff as well, like, I always think bringing in meditation is important for anybody in any industry, especially creativeness when it's, a lot of high pressure. They're important toolboxes too, to meditate and stay grounded, because what they might read is not what they might not be what they want to hear.
No, that's very good advice. It's very good advice. It's a completely different mindset. It's just a completely different mindset.
Exactly.
What about, say, the creator has been able to do that, has been able to separate the emotions, attaching it as if they like this, they like me, versus this is a product. Say you've been able to do that. What about the criticism or dealing with rejection if it is they're rejecting the filmmaker or they're rejecting the creator? So it is a personal rejection. How do you help work with that?
So that's a good point, because sometimes it can be, some people might say, I just don't like that vision, or it didn't resonate with me. I don't really like that approach, which is fair enough. It happens. So when that occurs, I say to the filmmaker is, remember, they're still not talking about you as a person. It's your craft and your creativity. And it's going to be, maybe it tells us feedback, it's acquired taste, or it's for a different market. There's going to be somebody who will click with that. Everyone doesn't like everything. I mean, for example, I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel films, but everyone else around me loves them. So it's, not all people are fans of that.
Right.
So it's going to, because that's a very different aesthetic. But you'll find that there is something good in every single film. There's something talkative or something good about what's in it. And it's just going to be not for everybody. But remember, it's never a personal attack on you. This is about work and creativity and how you approach things. Never take it personally to thinking it's an attack on you and you as a person.
Having worked with clients in this space, even though you're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but you still are, in many ways, you're a counselor. Where do you see this going? Where do you see the future of the mental health for creatives going?
I want it to be more integrated into the world of creative industries. I think it's really important. And I already integrated it into my work with my clients and also my staff. I think it's going to go in that direction. I want my book to keep helping people doing that and what I do. But I think it's really important. I can see a shift happening since probably about 2020. But I feel now it's becoming really important that mental health and looking after yourself in this kind of industry that's extremely high pressure and competitive, because sometimes imposter syndrome and comparison theory also creeps in, which is very important not to get sucked into, because that
let me stop you there, and I want to talk about the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Those few people who don't know, but what is the imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is like this kind of a feeling where you're really good at what you do and you have talent, but then for some reason you doubt yourself that you're not good enough and that the work isn't up to standard, or someone is for example, you just feel inferior to other people, or that what you've made is not, you don't deserve that praise. So it's a very personal thing, or that acclaim. And that can actually get very, go on a downward spiral of depression. I've seen go on with creatives in the past too.
And how does one get past that? To realize your own worth.
Yeah, that is one I found personally and with clients, that when imposter syndrome pops up, which it can do. I mean, I know that somebody from One Direction had it or got it on the stage, or there was a time where you had to take a break. And a lot of it can come from childhood traumas, or either, growing up in the family, or bullying at schools, or just, younger kind of experiences can come up. So it's important, I think, to actually at that point speak with a therapist who's either trained in EMDR therapy or CBT, to train the brain to think differently and to see yourself for you and to love yourself, because that comes up too. And to stay grounded that you are the creator of that work, you're the author, and you deserve that praise, and not to kind of let those previous experiences come back to haunt you, because it could just mean there's more healing to do.
I want to shift gears. I want to get to your primary day job.
Yeah.
And that is film festival strategies.
Yes.
Tell us first just about film festivals.
Yep.
And then actually I'll let you do that, and then I'll jump in with the next question.
So film festivals are brilliant events. There's loads of them around the world. There's a lot of festivals that take place, pretty much like one in every city. And what they are is they're events where people discover new talent, or the new work from, a big director. If it's like something like at Sundance, you see all the new films from the top directors who are making waves, Oscar winners, etc. You also discover new independent film talent, and you can discover that via short films, feature films, fiction, nonfiction, music videos, and VR, and episodic content and web series. There's a lot of stuff that takes place at film festivals. They're also now starting to move into gaming and immersive VR, and unproduced screenplays also have a place too, to find new writers. So there's a lot of stuff available at a film festival to get stuck into, but also to discover. And that's what they're about primarily. Discovering for audiences new filmmaking talent, new visions, new voices. And in terms of filmmakers, connecting with other people who are equally talented to connect with and build relationships with, and get their films seen around the world and great exposure.
And you help filmmakers develop a strategy for the film festivals. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay. How do you go about that? I mean, I saw you have one of the checklists that you have, and I thought it was it's a self-evaluation checklist for your film. Yes. And the first question is it good enough?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really hard question to answer, I'm sure, for many creators, but
yes.
It's a really important question. But
yes.
So let's say you've passed that first threshold. It's good enough. It should keep going. How do you develop a strategy? What do you do?
So when you read the film and think, okay, well, yes, it is good enough. As you said, it's past the first round. The way to create a strategy is to streamline and focus. So in other words, what I mean by that is when we've seen the film, we think, right, okay, it can do these kinds of festivals and this level and tier. But it's important that the filmmaker is in alignment with this, and their goals in alignment with the strength of the film. So if a filmmaker says, right, I've made this short and I want to get it onto the circuit and just do the Oscar, BAFTA qualified film festivals, I want to get down that road, then we have to think, well, how strong enough is it for those kinds of festivals? Will they want this kind of product? If it's a yes, then we'll obviously include those festivals. And if it's not, we'll include festivals that won't be like those, but will still be very good and still get the right exposure to help them as a stepping stone to make more films that will be of a higher quality. So it's a very rigorous assessment. It's looking at the film from different angles and figuring out what kinds of festivals would like that kind of product. And that takes a bit of time because it's taking into account the festival's audience, or audiences, more like plural. The personal programmer taste plays a big role, because personal programmer taste is a big one, because some programmers do base their choices on what they like to program. We also have to think about if it's the kind of quality that kind of level and tier festival likes. And finally, what goes into it is it the kind of film that would be able to travel? So is it too local? Is it best to keep it just to the US or just to the West Coast or just to South Africa? Or can it travel? Can the story travel? And will it appeal to festivals in these other parts with its topic and its theme and its execution? It's quite a few things to take into account. That's why it takes a bit of time. But that's the kind of like maybe the nutshell of it.
And then let's say you're not involved. It's just a filmmaker submitting applications without doing the kind of analysis that you would help him or her do. What % get into film festivals?
It's kind of low because you need a strategy. If you don't know how the festival circuit works and you're new to it, doing the spray and pray, if you want to call it, and just going, hoping for the best, can waste a lot of money. And normally what they can do with that approach is they aim very high, and also they do what we call general festivals. So say it's like a short film, and they go into all the big festivals, which are, not specific to say short films, like example, the Nashville Film Festival, the New Orleans Film Festival, for example. Those festivals do screen short films, but they don't have as many slots as a short film festival would. So they just go, all the big top tiers and just, this one will be good, this one will be good. And it gets nowhere, or it gets very little because it's not focused on, if the festival's going to want this kind of thing for their audience, for their demographic, and for the area of the world or the US where it takes place in. So it can end up wasting thousands in submission fees.
Which I know from my clients, it can be very expensive.
Yes, it can be. Especially if you do a late deadline and it can be last minute, it can be very expensive.
Yeah. And then when clients work with you and help with the focused approach that you've talked about, obviously you can't guarantee it's going to get in.
Correct.
But how much have their odds improved?
So although we can't guarantee, but because it's so specific and it's so streamlined, they're gonna get some kind of result. We don't know where and when that will happen, but it always does occur because it's a very targeted approach. And it's based upon, as I say, those key elements, but also it's focused upon knowing what that festival tend to look for, because we always keep on top of the festivals that we work with. We work with loads of them. That's why it's a full-time job, knowing what, their latest trends are, what their focus is, and if it would work for them. And that can be, for us, it's kind of time consuming, but also kind of isn't, because we're used to doing it. So we get in the hang of it quickly. And that's why it takes a lot of time, because it's a full-time job. But we know, and then we think, right, it's going to be a gem here, and it gets in because the film is strong enough for that kind of level of quality of festival.
So completely shifting gears. I talked about at the top that you were a published author.
Yep.
One of your books is an ebook that you can get on your website as a download.
Yes.
Which I did last night.
Oh, great.
Which is how I got the checklist question evaluations.
Yes, very impressive.
You have your newest book is Born to Do It, Becoming the Leader of a Business Niche Using Powerful Spiritual Techniques.
Yes. So that one was
Tell me about that.
That was published in 2020. The latest ebook is Film Festival Look After Your Mental Health, but that was the one that was published by Butterfly House in 2020, and it was good timing because I got this inspiration to write, and I got asked to write that book because I wanted to talk more about integrating into like a business routine and the business kind of standard practices, the formal kind of things, spirituality, and how that can make the process not just more fun, but more rewarding, and knowing how it works behind the scenes with like, so the universe and all that kind of stuff, putting it into like the business infrastructure that can tend to be kind of dry and, formal, and make it like, right, positive thinking and manifestations, all these kind of things are really important to be in a business routine, especially when you're in the creative industry, because it's important to stay grounded and to know what you want and put it out there.
And I have, I don't know where I read it. You talk about vision boards too.
Yes, that's true.
How do they work for you? What's your version of the vision board?
So vision boards were, I mean, when I was growing up, and I know it was a thing that people used to see as maybe being fun. But then as I began to learn more about vision boards from the experts like Jack Cranfield and Marie Diamond, I was seeing how they are actually a very important well-being tool, but also a powerful tool for the workplace, not just for personal life. So I remember in the beginning, people said, oh, put a vision board together of all your dreams and your wishes. But obviously in those dreams and wishes, there'll be career stuff in there too. So what I started to do was put together vision boards for each product that we worked on and help my team, like, stay grounded during the pandemic, and help them by getting out, doing it on a vision board, like an A3 board, but also on their phone, to put together a collage of what they wanted to achieve for each project, to really look at it every day and see the success and be driven towards that success and keep going and not fall into like a depressive, melancholy spell, just stay really, really grounded, really, really focused, which was really important. So they worked really well. And I noticed that they were becoming very, very popular, like fun tools in magazines. But then I noticed there was a shift when they became more, during the pandemic, actually more prominent, and to see what your life will be after the pandemic. And also it was talking about work as well. So it wasn't just a personal thing. So I used them a lot. And I also use them in film festivals, because putting your dreams of film festivals up is really important.
So what are you working on right now? What are your projects that are on your plate right now?
So we have some really exciting films that are touring the circuit. And at this moment in time, when we're talking, it's the Oscar campaigns are in full swing, because the Oscars are in March next year. So right now I've got 6 or 7 films which are currently competing for Oscar nomination. So which is quite exciting. And 2 of them qualified by winning the Oscar qualifying award at 2 festivals, one in Chicago, one in New York, which is really exciting. And all the other ones qualified by having the theatrical run, which is also great. I've got a feature film in there, and also got the rest of them as short films from South Africa, UK, and USA. So that's quite a lot of time in that now, because it's a lot of, I got to keep getting the promo out there, get the reviews out there, get the film seen, put the link out. And also film festivals are happening, 24/7. And actually a film of mine, which was shot here in Dallas that represent, has done really well. And we've actually just won at the Oscar qualifying St. Louis Film Festival in Missouri, the Best Inspirational Film Award, and $5,000. So that can go towards the Oscar campaign.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, very exciting.
So one last question. Where can people find you on the internet?
The best place is Instagram and my website. The Instagram is at Rebekah Film Doctor. I'll spell that. That's REBEKAHFILMDR. And the website is thefilmfestivaldoctor.com.
Thank you. I'll be right back.
Thank you.
That's it for this time. If you enjoyed our podcast, please write a review on iTunes and tell your friends to subscribe. If you have any questions about influencers or suggestions for future episodes, email them to John at Pfeiffer@pfeifferlaw.com. Thank you for listening.